There we go, got it. So guys, you might now have a notification up on your screen just so you can acknowledge that the call is being recorded. As such, a vulnerability call invites you to have your cameras on or off. It's entirely up to you. And a communication and vulnerability call is via the chat box. So check you have your chat box open. She says, I'm using my iPad tonight, so excuse me if I get lost. So if you were in the call last week, apologies, I got so distracted. I was really struggling because I was listening to people, looking at people, and trying to read the chat box. And I can only get better at this as we go through. Okay, so as there's a couple of ladies still signing in, so while we're waiting on everybody signing in, can you start using the chat box to let me know something wonderful that's happened to you this week? So you can give me a win, whether it's been work-based, whether it's been nutrition-based, movement, flexibility. If you had a wee flutter on the lottery, let me know your wins in the chat box. Sinead's been freed from isolation. Oh, they changed the restrictions, didn't they, today? Aha. Yes, I need to read up on the new restrictions because I must admit I'm winging it a little bit at the moment. Okay. Ah, Tara, superb. The freezer is full of TDL food again, so Gail has been on it with the batch cooking. Superb. Finished work and hubby had run me a lovely bubble bath. Okay, you've got him well trained, Nikki. Do you want? Does he have a brother? So Carol made it through isolation without killing everybody. I'm glad that you're free, Carol, as well. That's superb. Okay, so tonight is actually taking a slight segue from where it was meant to go. Where I wanted to go tonight was to roughly talk around resolutions. It's that time of year where absolutely everything is hijacked in society to guilt us into feeling we should be starting afresh and making great big changes. And largely, many of these schemes are there to capitalise on the slightly recharged and highly motivated fresh start mentality that we've all got in January. Okay, we've had 2 weeks of lie-ins, we've had lots of nice foods, we've got loads of energy, hopefully a little bit more sleep than usual. But they're very often fairly all or nothing style resolutions. Now, I used veganuary as an example in the Facebook post the other day. Yeah, Jane, you're sounding super organized with the food, which is amazing. And just getting ahead of the game, you're going to feel so much more like you're in the driving seat. But so come back to resolutions, these all or nothing things. Veganuary, but let's use the chat box. Has anybody else got any other examples of these all or nothing resolutions? Stopping smoking would be one. Oh, what's that one? Dry January? Is it dry January? And there's yeah, there we go, Sinead. Why did you come up with that one? I'll get into the chat box again. Exercise resolutions at this time of year tend to be, that's it, I'm going to run a marathon, rather than, you know, I'm going to get comfortable going out for a run twice a week or something. It's usually let's aim for it for the limit. Yeah, dry January is going to have a common theme, and that is it's so all or nothing, which sets you up by the second, third week in January. You desperately need that wee glass of wine to take the edge off things, and it's going to be really hard work. And then come February, you're going to have a bath in the stuff because it's been all or nothing. Now, let's get back to veganuary because it raised quite a lot of questions in the Facebook group, which was quite interesting. I thought we'd maybe go down that route. Okay, so in the chat box, I want you to find your thumbs up or your thumbs down emoji and tell me whether you have tried veganuary, being veggie, being pescatarian, or thumbs down if you're like, no, I'm not interested, I like my sausages, thanks. And let me know if you have ever thought about, so it's thumbs up if you've ever thought about vegetarianism, veganism. And if you want to elaborate, if you want to tell me that you are vegetarian or vegan, go ahead. And there's absolutely zero judgment in these answers, by the way. This is quite an emotive topic. The whole vegetarianism, veganism, any sort of choice that you make with your diet, it's so emotive, and you will find somebody that challenges you. You'll find people that support you, and really not important. Okay. So Nikki's thought about it, stopped there, which is good. Gail can't live without a steak and bacon butties, quite right. And Jane struggles with eating veg, so she's not contemplated it because it just hasn't. Doesn't appeal to her taste, which is grand. Doesn't appeal to Claire either. Superb. So a nice mix there. So a slight disclaimer here. I actually follow a plant-based diet. I am not vegan because I think I've met many vegans who are too all or nothing mentality, and it's not nice. It's not a nice environment to be in. I don't tend to offer that information up to people because you get judged for it quite quickly. You get judged. We were just mentioning the word woo-woo. She's like, well, literally, she's going to be hugging trees next. I haven't done that recently. So Carol was one of the people who brought up on the Facebook page the question about her daughter being interested in trying a meat-free Monday. Now, this is where we're going to go from the all or nothing perspective, where people think, that's it, I'm going vegan. Now, even that phrase, going vegan, is like you literally have to come from that and then become that. Whereas, how about making a little step closer towards something? Meat-free Monday is a nice way to do that, where you maybe just reduce the amount of meat you're eating in a week. Can I have, okay, we haven't got thumbs up, Jane can't find her thumbs up. So can I have a Y if you like mac and cheese, and an N if you don't? Okay. Meat-free meal, okay? So you've had a vegetarian meal. I use this one with my mum quite often. She's like, oh, but what are you going to eat? I'm like, anything I want, Mum, it's okay. She panics when I come to visit because if there's not meat in it, she's stumped. She literally doesn't know what to cook for me. But mac and cheese is a vegetarian meal. Now, it doesn't have much veg in there, so we'll be encouraging you to get veg in there. As it said, Jane doesn't enjoy much veg in her diet, so it could be a bit of a challenge. But mac and cheese, you do not need to live on lettuce leaves to have a more plant-based diet. Right, I'm going to get you to give me a number 1 if you have seen the Game Changers documentary, and a number 2 if you haven't. Interesting. Okay, cool. So Game Changers was a documentary that came out, now I keep forgetting the last 2 years, I feel a bit like we're in a wormhole. So it's probably actually closer to 3 or 4 years ago. It will still be available if you Google Game Changers. It will be on Netflix. You might even get it on YouTube. Now, Game Changers, at their own admission, is not a scientifically correct documentary, but it is promoting a more plant-based lifestyle. Now, it is aimed at, now I know I'm sitting here with a group of ladies, but it's aimed at middle-aged men, and they come up with some fabulous experiments and sports performance perspective to encourage people to think about introducing more plants into their diet. It's a fascinating watch. Now, like I say, it's not scientifically spot on. They've cherry-picked a couple of bits of data, but it's fascinating to get you thinking about integrating slightly more plant-based meals. And it shows that we literally do not need as much protein as we are led to believe in our diets. So if you do get a chance to have a watch of it, if you fancy looking for it, please watch it. Very, very interesting. If you have gents in your home, whether you have teenage sons or partners, please get them to watch it because it is quite interesting. But yeah, all 2s. Okay, so we'll not go down that route. If I tell you that there's an interesting, watch it with your meal friends, partners, brothers, whatever, watch it with them, because there's a really interesting part on, I'm going to totally lower the tone here, but there we go, on the strength of erections. So there's an interesting little product, a little test that they do to make men quite interested in it. Now, the knock-on effect to this is the health benefits, because it can show to lower cases of things like coronary heart disease and age-related illnesses, when people start paying more interest in increasing the plant-based options in their food. I'm waffling again, aren't I? So we've got meat-free Monday, and I mentioned the mac and cheese. What are the benefits of eating more plants? Go and pop in the chat for me what you think the benefits might be of eating more plants in your diet. Now, I'm using the word plants. I'm not necessarily saying vegetables. Okay, go and pop in the chat if you've got any ideas about what the benefits might be, apart from stronger erections, like the Game Changers documentary tells you about. Cool. Superb. So far, we're getting more vitamins. Oh, brilliant, lovely. More vitamins and minerals. More fibre. The nutritional benefit, Tara. And then Jane's mentioning better gut health. Cool. All correct. All lovely, correct. Now, the other benefits of them are they're cheaper. They're cheaper than many meat dishes. They are the vast diversity you get of plants. Whereas when we're talking about protein, traditionally you think, well, that's chicken, beef, pork, eggs, fish. Okay, we're stuck there. Vegetables, I don't have enough fingers to show you the vegetables, right? The diversity of the vegetables is ridiculous. And you've got all those different vegetables are all full of different fibres. So we're using fibres because it's not just one thing, there's multiple different types of fibres which feeds, this is what Jane's talking about there, they feed your gut bugs, they feed, if you think about your intestines like a beehive, right, and there's all these bees. Bees are slightly nicer than think of little insects, little bees buzzing around in your intestines, and they need fed. Now, the bees over here like one type of fibre, and the bee over here likes the different type of fibre. So let's feed all the bees and keep all the bees happy. So you've got harmony in your gut with all these different fibres that you're going to get from your different plants. Now, if anybody's got any questions at any point, please pop them in, okay? Because you might be thinking, where's she going with this? Because another question we were getting on the Facebook page, I think it was from Sinead, saying, well, I struggle because I don't know how to get protein into my diet then, if I'm going to be reducing meat, if you're going to be reducing animal products. Now, the wonderful thing about vegetables is they're also a massive source of protein. They are a huge source of protein. Now, chickpeas and tofu are the main thing people think, oh, that's plant-based protein. In fact, pop into the chat if you've got any other ideas about good plant-based sources of protein. I think it was at Carol, you asked about corn. Yeah, so Gail's mentioned nuts, lentils, beans. So you've heard of legumes. Legumes are things like your beans and lentils, chickpeas. And yes, they're all considered quite good sources of plant-based protein. So we ask you in TDL to try and prioritize your protein inclusion in your meals. And the recipes in your initial meal plan were all, they were all animal-based, they were all meat-based meals. I don't think there are any plant-based meals in your initial recipe book. So I did have had, you know, there's an awful lot of chicken recipes in there, awful lot of chicken recipes. Now, go and put in the chat box, why do we ask you to focus on your protein first and foremost? Have you got an idea about why we ask you to? Why is it important? because we do try and encourage you to integrate it at every, I'm going to say, feeding window of the day. So breakfast, snacks, lunch and dinner. Lovely, lovely. Good, nice spectrum of answers there. So to fill you up, yes, it increases satiety. So once you've had a higher protein meal, you will feel fuller. The health benefits of protein. What are the health benefits of protein? It helps protect our muscles. And like what Claire said there, it protects our muscles. And then Carol has come with it. It is good for muscle growth. So protein, if you think of it like Lego blocks, and the Lego blocks of protein is made up of amino acids. And we need a certain number of these amino acids to make a nice little, come together to form a nice chain so that we can then lay down lean muscle mass. Right, I'm going to keep throwing questions at you. Why do we want to protect our muscle? Why do we want to protect our muscles? So yes, Carol's there saying it helps build our lean muscle. It helps repair our muscles as well, which is why commonly you'll have heard of people taking protein shakes after the gym, because it helps repair your muscles. So, okay. Now, if we are eating enough protein from our diet, it means that when our body is needing fuel, it is not then going to break down our muscle tissue to produce fuel, because we'll have had protein in our digestive system to use that readily and freely. We want to protect our muscle fibers and our muscle mass, because as Gail has pointed out here, muscle helps burn fat. So muscle is our metabolic tissue. That's where the magic happens. That is where we use our calories. That is where one product is changed into another and we create energy, and that's where it happens. So that's why we promote resistance training. You go and lift some heavy stuff in the gym rather than just cardio all the time. We want to retain that lean muscle because that's where the metabolic stuff happens. We want to retain our muscles because we don't want to be the lady walking down the street that can't see anything except our knees. We want to maintain our posture. Muscle looks good as well. You know, we'd like to retain that muscle because it looks good. So protein is going to help protect, repair, and it is very, very hard to grow muscle as we age unless we're eating an awful lot. We're maybe eating a little bit more than our calorie allowance. But yes, protein is there to protect and maintain our muscle, which is why we ask you to promote it. Maybe prioritize it perhaps in your meals. Now, how does this come into the plant-based world? It's not very well known fact that broccoli has got very similar amino acid profile to an egg. You know, it's literally one little amino acid different to an egg. But you would consider them quite differently. There's your animal protein, there's a vegetable. But it's not just a vegetable. Very rarely will a food go into one bucket. An egg is not going to go into just the protein bucket. An egg is going to go into protein and fats because it's got a nice combination of protein and fats. Steak is going to go into protein and fats because steak is lean muscle tissue. So it is housing, protein, it's got all the amino acids, and it's also got fat as well. Broccoli is, yes, it's carbohydrates, okay, because it's a vegetable. So it's going to go into carbohydrate bucket, but it's also going to go into the protein bucket a little bit because it's got cell membranes, because it has got protein, it's got protein provision in it. Same things with brown rice and all our beans, all our legumes, they all have a protein profile. Now, it's not a complete protein profile, which is why we encourage you to get a diversity of your vegetables, because then maybe you're getting 5 amino acids over here, 3 amino acids over here, which is going to come together and make a nice complete chain to give you a complete protein. Okay, now let me know. You don't need to give me a thumbs up. Give me a Y if that makes sense. Give me an N if it doesn't. And again, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat box. Okay, superb, thank you. Now, I think it was Carol was asking when her daughter was talking about maybe trying meat-free Monday. Our meat alternatives, things like corn, tofu, Plant Kitchen is Tesco's own brand one now. There are so many vegan products out there now. I think it's because people thought that vegan was somehow healthier. And there's now this market for people wanting vegan foods, but they're super highly processed. If I was to ask you, what is corn? Could anybody answer me right now? What is it? What was it? What is it made out of? So it's quite processed. So is your body going to deal with it very well? Is it going to give you any fiber or vitamins or minerals? Cardboard, Claire, yes, cardboard, it's a bizarre product. And it's ridiculous now. Corn is now coming out with chicken nuggets and fish fingers, and you can literally get anything you want made out of corn. But seriously, what is it? What even is it? Okay, so when you do think, if you do think, yeah, I want to reduce the amount of meat in my diet, please don't go just to the processed aisle. Don't go into the fridge, into the green, the vegan sections in the supermarkets are getting bigger. Go and have a look for real food. If what I've told you about broccoli right now has resonated at all, and if you think of it like Lego blocks, okay, I've got 3 over here and I'm going to add 5 from over here and put them together. Rice and beans is another really nice combination that makes that complete profile, which is why our Indigenous tribes that eat rice and beans for 3 meals a day are thriving. And they don't have meat in their diet at all, and they're thriving because they're getting the complete protein from the diversity of the plants that they are eating. So if you fancy having a meat-free meal, don't think about what you can replace your mince in your bolognese with. You don't have to go and have corn bolognese to have a meat-free meal. You could have bean chili. You could have bean chili with carrots and onions and peppers and all sorts of vegetables thrown through there. And go and put in the chat box, what was your initial thought when I mentioned bean chili, and see if we're on the same page. But that's one suggestion. Oh, Jane loves bean chili, awesome. Okay, so Sinead finds success with stir fries and curries. Okay. Veggie chili, how fine, good, awesome. Now, so there you go, you're all getting quite friendly with bean chili idea. You've tried it, you know you do it. Who knew you were eating a plant-based meal? So where I was aiming for is when I mentioned bean chili, I was wondering if anybody else went, oh, but that gives me a sore tummy. Okay, so Sinead can make mushroom mince for bolognese or chili. So mushroom is a really good alternative. I've got a beautiful recipe for mushroom sausage rolls, doing exactly the same thing. I imagine Sinead mincing it, and then it makes a really nice sausage paste to go in the sausage roll. But often when people are trying to put in a bit more plant-based meals throughout their week, what can often happen is they get a bit of gastro discomfort. And I'm going to go back to my bee imagery. So in your gut bugs, in your intestines, you've got your bees, you've got your little gut bugs. Now, when you give them a nice variety of fiber, whether it's been chickpeas and you haven't had chickpeas for ages, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're 3 months pregnant, you're a little bit uncomfortable, you're maybe not the best company. And that's because you have increased your fiber massively compared to what you're used to eating. So when people jump on Veganuary and they're like, that's it, January, I've gone vegan, they're probably, really not good company for a couple of weeks. They're going to have a big change in their digestive activity, possibly a bit of discomfort. Now, I don't want that to put anybody off with that. Instead, what I'd like you to think about is the baby steps, rather than, okay, I'm here and then I've got to be vegan. Okay, I'm here and I'll try meat-free Monday. I don't need to have meat for lunch tomorrow. And then gradually, you can just get away from meat at every single meal and just gradually start integrating a little bit more fiber and the different vegetables. Now, when you do that, your gut bugs are going to get used to you giving them a spoonful of chickpeas at a time. And they're like, oh, quite like that. Rather than, oh, woohoo, we've got all this fibre, and celebrating and creating all this gas, which can cause discomfort and pain. Now, that is one reason I do know that people suffer from IBS and FODMAP sensitivities, and I'm aware that exists. So I'm not belittling that at all. But often when we increase fibre incrementally quite quickly, your gut will complain and let you know about it. So yeah, start integrating, extra beans. If you're making chili with beef mince or turkey mince or something, see if you could chuck a tin of beans in there as well, and just start changing the scale a little bit. So rather than going completely all or nothing into plant-based, you're just introducing a little bit. Tara was also asking, sorry about this jump in here, I knew I took notes for a reason. Tara was asking about plant-based beef strips as a snack, an on-the-go snack. That's another thing I saw recently is Quorn is doing, has anybody seen fridge raiders before? I'm not encouraging you to buy them. I've just seen them in the fridge, particularly in places like filling stations. And they're pretty good on-the-go snack. If you're stuck, they're an all right protein source if you're stuck. The plant-based beef strips would be the same thing, but you do need to look at them for what you're eating. They're a hyper-processed food. You're not sure what they were to begin with, so you're not very sure how your tummy's going to cope with that. You are literally taking something and you've no idea what the initial ingredient was. But Tara, they are better than nothing. The plant-based beef strips. Quorn are doing loads of different, they're doing chicken roll, you can get sandwich ham and everything now. They are better than nothing, but it is a highly processed food. I would prefer you to try and eat as close to natural as you can. Okay, now what else was I going to ask you about? Right, actually, you know what, I'm going to throw it back to you and ask if you've got any questions, because I've done an awful lot of talking. So if you've got any questions, or is anybody going to try bean chili or mac and cheese or anything and integrate it into their week if you're not still following your food plan? Chat box again. And let's say when I was starting the talk tonight, it was meant to be round about resolutions, but because I mentioned veganuary, there was quite a good few questions on protein and integrating more plants in your diet. So I hope this has been useful. I've kind of segued from where I was going to talk about the all or nothing resolutions. You've got mac and cheese already, Nikki, and adding bacon. Yep, there's absolutely, much to my children's disgust, I used to add broccoli and spinach to my mac and cheese. They weren't very happy with me for doing that. So yeah, you can add whatever you like to it. Bacon, put some on I can never say it, chorizo sausage is nice in mac and cheese as well. Cool. So Tara is going to try the prawn and pesto dish. See, so Sinead doesn't eat red meat. Doesn't need to be, I'm never going to eat any meat again. It could literally be, I'm going to try and integrate more fish or more white meat instead of just that all or nothing thought process. Because an all or nothing thought process is not healthier. Vegan diet is not necessarily healthier at all. Cool. Well, best of luck, Carol. Please let me know how you get on. Okay. So yeah, Claire's mentioning there she used to do the odd veggie meal, but she's seen Aileen telling people that TDL isn't for people who are completely veggie. And that is largely because, and it was a question I was asked when I came on board with TDL, would I be happy coaching plant-based people? Absolutely, I'm very, very happy to do that. I've been plant-based for a very, very long time myself. I'm very happy to do that. And it can literally just be a comfort zone. And Aileen's resources are set up to support people who eat the omnivore diet, to eat an all-inclusive diet. So she's not saying that she doesn't support the plant-based diet, it's just what she's set up for just now is to support an omni diet. It's not anti-plant-based at all. So yeah, popping in the odd veggie meal occasionally is great. Sinead's there asking how best to get calcium. Okay, so dairy is obviously a no for people who want to follow a vegan diet, which would be the go-to suggestion for calcium. But calcium, we can get calcium from our green leafy veg. Eat more veg, eat more veg. So you broccoli, chard, spinach, kale, all the stuff which you might think, put kale through your mac and cheese, because then it goes soft and then it's easy to eat. Mac and cheese, you don't need to make it with dairy. You can make it with nutritional yeast to give it the cheesy taste. You can make it with pureed butternut squash and make a white sauce with oat milk and butternut squash. But you can then get your calcium from the green leafy veg that you add to it. Okay. I've done it again. I've run over your time. I'm really sorry. I just like talking. I just like the sound of my own voice. Okay, so guys, hopefully that's given you a couple of ideas. Oh, now that's Claire's mentioning that there's a mac and cheese recipe that you add protein powder to. Personally, that sounds absolutely bouffing to me, and I wouldn't be doing that at all. I would add nutritional yeast as a source of protein, or again, I would stick my broccoli on the side of it. I'm not, personally, not a huge fan of protein powder. Again, it's a highly processed product. My gran didn't need it, so I will try and forge my diet around other products as well. Protein powder is there for convenience. It's got its place. It's fabulous. But yeah. Do I have any other questions before I keep you all past your bedtime? Okay. Right. Well, thank you very, very much for joining me tonight, ladies. And I shall see you all again next week, I hope. Okay, I'll let you go. Thanks for joining in, and I shall speak to you soon. You're welcome, Jane. Thanks for joining. Okay. Good night, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.